It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Monday, April 6, 2026. And you know what that means. It's time to get nerdy, y'all. Welcome to episode number 374 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. My name is Lam, also known as Mr. Nice Guy, and I am joined by my comrade in gaming commentary, the Miggity Mac, also known as Maction. Mac, what's good, buddy? How you been?
I've been okay, man. It's been a couple of weeks, and I've got to admit, I wouldn't say that I've had all that much interesting going on these past couple of weeks, but I did go for a very expensive ride. Mr. Nice Guy, let me tell you that I went for a ride. It was probably 40 miles.
What?
And it cost me about $500. With that in mind, Mr. Nice Guy, what do you think? What kind of ride, what kind of sweet, awesome vehicle was I riding?
I think you were just in your car. Gas prices are insane right now. So you were just in your car and you just went to the grocery store and came home. Hashtag inflation. Am I right or am I wrong?
Hashtag inflation, hashtag baller on a budget. You are wrong. I'll give you one more guess.
Okay, if I'm being serious, $500
for like 40 miles.
For 40 miles, I'm going to guess that I don't think this is it, but I'm going to guess that you went to like a racetrack and drove a exotic car.
Oh.
And it was very expensive.
If only. I love where your head's at. No, Mr. Nice Guy, it was a ride in a tow truck, of course.
Oh, man. I guess I could have guessed ambulance, too. That would have been more realistic. What happened that you had to go in a tow truck?
Driving down the road. Engine starts shuddering a little bit. That check engine light comes on, so you pull on over, you take a look, and unfortunately, I had just recently cleaned out the car, which meant I had removed tools and everything and forgot to put it back.
Oh, man.
As it turned out, it was a fairly straightforward problem. One of the ignition coils had a little bit of an issue. I even had the spare part if I hadn't accidentally forgot to put it all back in. But I also didn't have my code reader, which can tell you what that check engine light means.
Sure.
So it was like, there we are, side of the road, and it was just like, okay, well, we gotta get home somehow. So, got home, very expensive, and then turned out to be a very easy repair. So I guess the moral of the story, everybody, is remember, keep your toolkit and your code reader in your car. Otherwise, it's not doing you any good. Because, yeah, that kind of stuff you can probably fix. Like a lot of parts. I mean, like I drive a Toyota, Mr. Nice Guy.
Cool.
Like you can find those parts most anywhere. So we could have found a replacement part had we known just a couple miles down the road. And once you know, you know. So anyway, it was a very expensive ride. I do not recommend it. Although, there are worse places to break down in a car, worse stretches of road. And it was kind of lovely getting a view from a higher up spot, from that tow truck. So, yeah.
Well worth it.
Yeah. How about you, Mr. Nice Guy? I hope you have had maybe equally expensive, but hopefully a lot more memorable experiences.
Yeah, equally expensive. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe more memorable. I guess that's debatable. This past week was spring break, so took the whole family
spring break
to Seattle, 20 minutes outside Seattle where I grew up, and spent time with family. Ended up going into the city and did some fun stuff. Saw the Mariners play. Went to the Seattle Science Center with the kids and my parents and my wife. What else did we do? We did so much. Had some fun dinners, went to the park, did like a little baseball game at the park of our own. That was awesome. Went to a little arcade. There's so much stuff to list, Mac. But ultimately, the best part was simply creating memories with family, hanging out, and having a good time, man. So it was super fun.
That sounds really good, man.
It was good. And Mac, if you had to guess between the three major gaming consoles, of which we have all three in the Nice Guy household, which one do you think we took on vacation with us? Switch, Xbox, PlayStation?
Only one. I would guess you probably took the Switch with you on vacation.
Yeah, we did. And it's amazing when kids don't have access to the online play, the competitiveness of the Xbox or the PlayStation. We find ways to be competitive in Mario Kart. We find ways to be competitive in Mario Tennis. It was a lot of fun. And my brother, who is super competitive as well, talking trash to my kids, it was a beautiful thing. More beautiful when they talk trash back when they would beat him at games.
Nice. And did they hold their own against him?
They held their own, Mac. And my kids are funny. So my youngest are 6. I'll tell you this and then we'll get started. And I told him, because my brother, he's a very, very good cook. And so he made some meals for us while we were there. And so I told him, you guys know that when a chef makes a really good meal, you are supposed to go punch him in the stomach and say delicious. Being 6 years old, that's now a thing.
Oh, no.
So my brother got punched in the stomach quite a bit, and it was hilarious for me to watch.
Amazing.
It was fun, man. And on that note, Mac, I say we do what we do best, and we hop right up in that gaming news. What do you think, man?
Absolutely, dude. What is new in video gaming?
So much. And once again, this is episode 374. I don't know if I said that earlier. Of Two Nerds in a Pod, nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. Thank you for those of you who are here now and or after the fact. Mac, we got so much to talk about. But first, let's talk about some words from a developer that is someone who made one of your favorite games. This is on PCGamer.com, and here is what is written by Ted Litchfield. Ted writes, Papers, Please and Return of the Obra Dinn creator Lucas Pope spoke about what he's working on next and why he can't and why we're not hearing about it more on the latest episode of Mike and Rami Are Still Here, the podcast of Nuclear Throne developer Rami Ismail and No More Robots founder Mike Rose. Though Pope said he typically enjoys talking about his work, he thinks, quote, the situation just feels different in the industry. You don't really talk about stuff when you're working on it, said Pope. It's getting slurped up by AI or people are going to copy it or something like that. I could probably stop there. But he goes on to say, it's not a hard rule, but I've got a kind of feeling about that. I just don't feel as comfortable talking about what I'm working on again. And Mac, we actually can stop there because that is such an interesting concept to me. And I don't know if that's how people feel universally, but that's how this gentleman feels about it. He can't talk about what he's working on because AI, well, he uses the term slurp it up, or someone is going to copy it. What do you think about that concept? Is AI having that effect on games? Or maybe is it that games have just become so derivative of each other that it's hard to have original thought? What do you think?
I will say, of all of the game developers out there who I would say are truly original, Lucas Pope really is an original game maker. I think Return of the Obra Dinn and Papers, Please both showcase just how outside of the box he thinks, as well as just how very entertaining his games can be in a way that you wouldn't expect. And also, just as another word about Return of the Obra Dinn, I think it is a unique thing, a unique story that you could really only express in the form of a video game. It just wouldn't work as a book, as interesting as it is. It wouldn't work as a movie. It wouldn't work as anything other than a piece of that truly interactive fiction. Okay, enough gushing about that. You were right to say is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Never would I say that Lucas Pope's work has ever been derivative, and probably not that much in risk of ever becoming derivative. But I think precisely because he's so good at bringing a vision to life, I think it is fair for him to be worried about people copying his idea and bringing a pale parody to market before he gets done with his masterpieces. I think it's fair to say that I think it's reasonable for him to be worried about people attempting to copy his works.
Okay, and that's fair. And you know, I don't want to I'm not trying to go after you for the AI thing because I know you have strong opinions on AI. I have lesser strong but still strong opinions on AI. And so here is the only issue I take with this comment. The idea that an idea is going to get slurped up by AI. And that's the direct quote from him. I disagree with that. And there was some comedian who once said, if you're worried about people taking your jobs, then maybe your job sucks. Like, or maybe you're just not good at it, right? And so I'm not saying that this gentleman, Lucas, is not good at his job. He's made some really great games. But if you're worried about AI copying your game, then perhaps the game is not as original as you think. And I don't think that's the case with him. But what I do think is the case is with him is that he's overestimating the power of AI. And that's where I take issue with his comments, because I don't think that AI can create something like a Celeste, like a Red Dead Redemption 2, like a Return to Obra Dinn. So I just don't agree with that comment.
And nice guy, I agree with you. I think I think his estimation of AI is a little bit too much. I don't think it's nearly as powerful as that statement might lead you to believe. So I agree with you, dude. But I will say that I think it's more legitimate to be worried about other people trying to copy the things, or other people trying to copy the work. I think the AI would be very much in line of trying to like reproduce the art style he might be going for.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
So, I do think that there's another conversation to be had about the fact that so many games are just derivative. If you make something in the, let's call it platformer genre, that is elite, like the graphics and the gameplay, the price point, the replayability, like if it just ticks all those boxes, that's great, but it's probably not going to be an original idea. It just means you created something that is the perfect storm of all of those things, through skill or through a little bit of luck or a combination of both. So I don't know about people copying games. I think that games are just so, there's a certain number of genres and it's hard to come up with a new one. But Mac, let's talk about the PlayStation 5, because this happened and we didn't get to talk about it last week. The price hike. This is on Wired.com, and they have kind of a unique take here in the article that they have written. And I'm trying to find who wrote this. I don't see the name here. Matt Kamen wrote this on Wired.com. If you've been holding off on picking up a PlayStation 5 in hopes of a price cut, bad news, the cost of every model of Sony's all-conquering console has just gone up considerably. It's a move that breaks with decades of tradition, or at least consumer expectations, and is undoubtedly a blow for anyone hoping for a discount. 5 years into the current console generation. However, it's also a sign that the current generation is likely to stick around for a while yet. And Mac, that's what I want to talk about. He goes on to say, and that may be a good thing for the industry and players alike. Historically, at this point in the console generation, incumbent hardware sees steep discounts. For example, the PS4, which launched for $400 in 2013, was retailing for $300 by 2018, a 25% decrease. Mac, I'm not going to go too deep into all the price changes, but the reason for this, supposedly, is the AI bubble has seen RAM and SSD storage prices skyrocket in the past few months, impacting the entire global tech sector. Mac, I'm not going to ask you how you feel about the price hike. I think we're in agreement there. What do you think about the residual effect of it potentially meaning longer console generations, but at the expense of us paying more?
The greatest thing about video games is people being able to experience the art. And to the extent that these price hikes keep people out of being able to experience new and better games, I feel really, really sad about that. Even because it's not just the consoles, it's also PC equipment. There were at least a couple of companies that said, hey, we're going to completely shut down our consumer division. So we make no consumer RAM anymore. We only make AI RAM, and same for storage and things like that. So like all of that, really hate that for us. But as a silver lining on all of this, that maybe we have these consoles stick around for a little bit longer and those people who have them get more use out of them, I think that that's a good thing. That's, making a good thing out of a bad situation. And if it does mean that we have developers, Nice guy, I know that, like, I'm very, very old school, and
believe us, we know.
I know, and I have a second of this very podcast that you're listening to contains as much data as an entire NES cartridge.
It's a great
and
point.
the types of stories that they were able to tell when they had to economize and they had to really work within some constraints instead of having bajillions of gigs of RAM. I'm kind of hopeful for, if we stick around with the Switch 2, the PlayStation 5, the Xbox One triple XS, whatever we're on now.
Right.
That hopefully we have some people who want to tell stories, but have to focus a little bit more on working within their constraints, and that we get better stories from it, rather than, I feel like almost every time there's a new game, right, we get a day one patch that is double the size of the game itself, which speaks to a certain lack of optimization, I think. And I would like to see people having to work a little bit harder on that side of it. And who knows, maybe this won't help at all, but I mean, I can dream.
Well, and I don't think that changes, right? I think that people are going to continue to use the day one patch. And I also think, the idea of DLC, not necessarily to replace the game, but to supplement the game, to keep the community going, whether it's in the form of a weekly challenge, a daily challenge, or whether it's in the form of more story-based DLC, which I feel like we're seeing less of. I think that type of stuff will continue. Here are my thoughts directly related to the PlayStation 5, though.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea that the price hike happened in the middle of the generation, and that is what is causing, or that is the residual effect that will result in the console generation being longer. I almost would have rather they had the PS5 cost $900 up front, and now they're cutting it in half, but just because it's so much harder to make improvements in hardware, that the console generation is continuing, right? The only way we really see graphical fidelity improvements is if new TVs come out. And so I'm fine with console generations being longer so that people don't have to go buy a new console and a new TV. I'm not okay with them being longer because AI and because chip shortage and because storage shortage. I don't like that.
Agreed.
But I like a longer generation.
I hope it leads to, just strangely enough, more accessibility and more people getting their hands on the games in the long run. And who knows, maybe some more optimization too. Like I said, I can dream. You can
dream. Mac, how long are we into the episode right now? I'm debating if we should do one more news story or if we should just keep things moving. You know what, man? Let's keep things moving, dude. Those are really the main two. If you're into World of Warcraft, just know that there was an awesome race to beat the boss recently, and I think it's great that type of stuff is happening in gaming. And that's our news for the week.
Nice. Well, Mr. Nice Guy, let's take a little look into the past with some video game history. I'm going to share just a couple of things that came out this last week in years before that I think bear mentioning. But, Nice Guy, I'm gonna ask for your favorite April Fools. Your favorite gaming
I already
April
know.
Fools
I already
in a
know.
minute. Okay, well, okay. If you already know, maybe we just hop right into it, because I've got a list. I've got a list about 7 or 8, but I'd like to hear what your favorite April Fools in gaming was.
So my favorite one, and it frustrated me at the time, was one that looked so good that it could have been real, and it was a Zelda live-action movie. This was several years ago. They made a very, very good, very realistic-looking trailer, and this was before video game movies were coming out as frequently as they are now.
Yeah.
And so the idea of something like that, live action, just looked amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorites. I was mad at the time.
Yeah, it was 2008, and yeah, it was an impressive trailer for sure. There was, it's really hard, Nice Guy, because I think my number one April Fools is definitely the 2014 Google April Fools, their Pokemon challenge that turned into Pokemon Go just a couple years later. But that's definitely my favorite. However, I do have some honorable mentions. And nice guy, I want to take us back to the year 1999 for a couple of these.
Okay.
So, Blizzard at the time has they're working on Diablo 2, right?
Sure.
And they do this thing where they have these screenshots that they're sharing every week. They're sharing screenshots straight from the developers' computers, what we're working on and such. And there is a cow level in this. A cow level with a bunch of, upright standing cows that are holding like halberds and stuff and, coming after the main character in Diablo 2. This would later on prove not just to be a April Fool's thing, as there was a secret cow level in Diablo 2, though there was not a secret cow level in Diablo 1. Can't stress that enough. And the secret cow level in Diablo 3, I believe, as well, as a result of those. The one that was perhaps a little bit more in my lane, also from 1999, came from Expert Magazine, which was one of those magazines that, like, I see you just lit up, Mr. Nice Guy. Did you have that magazine back in the day?
I did not, but it's very similar to the Game and Farcer April Fool's edition that they would come out with. But I don't want to steal your thunder. Tell us more.
No, this one was all about how you could get Yoshi in Pokemon Red and Blue. And it was just close enough, dude. It was like, okay, you gotta catch all 151 Pokemon, so you had to get both Mew and Mewtwo, and then you've gotta have a fire evolution stone, and in a cave near Cerulean City, you can evolve a Dragonite into Yoshi. Just close enough that, like, several of us back in those days really tried following that up. All these different permutations, like, oh, maybe this was wrong, and I didn't have a subscription to Expert Magazine, and it's not like we had pocket supercomputers with internet connections to double check this, so it was just like, dang, okay, we're gonna have to wait till next Friday after school when we can go check out at the library, get on the internet there, because we didn't have it at home. It was a different time. It was a wild time, what I'm saying. Man, there are a couple of other good ones. Like, I remember GameSpot pulling one on us in 2017 when they're like, you can pilot a Guardian in Breath of the Wild.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or like Blizzard did one in 2004 where they were like, hey, on World of Warcraft, we'll have two-headed ogres as a playable character. So you have to control it co-op with two of you at the same time. Just a lot of interesting stuff like that. But I think the coolest, one that I think one of the coolest ones that turned out to be real was actually the ROG Ally.
Yes.
I know we've got some people who are listeners to the show who like that peripheral and such. It was announced on April Fools in 2023, but was an honest, legitimate product. So yeah, sometimes we get stuff. We may not have gotten the magical Kia Sorrento from 2008, pilotable by a Wii remote control, by a Wii nunchuck controller, but we did get the ROG Ally, so I guess it's not all jokes, huh? But that's some of the good April Fool's ones in the past. On a more serious note, this last week in 1982 is when we would see the release of Pac-Man for Atari. As you know, we had things like KC Munchin and a bunch of other fun early copyright disputes back there with Pac-Man. And then in March 31st of 2024, so just a couple of years ago, was when Ubisoft shut down The Crew, that driving game. More on that later. But Mr. Nice Guy, that's what I had for us for history today.
Nice. Well, Mac, now it's time for what today, at least, is probably my favorite segment of the show because I'm super excited to talk about this topic with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for Topic of the Week. a segment where we discuss something relevant in gaming and give our opinions on it. And Mac, this is super interesting. And as a backdrop for the audience, I feel like many of you have been listening for a while. And so you know that we once interviewed Ross Scott, who heads Stop Killing Games. And we've talked about his mission on here many times about game preservation and about how we ultimately, I think it's safe to say we both agree with that mission, Mac. We're both in favor of it. My stance differs from Mac's a little bit, and maybe it doesn't, but I feel like sometimes I question the feasibility of such a journey because it's so ambiguous. And it puts so much pressure on a company to maintain something that may not be profitable for them any longer. But today's story takes a different approach. And it makes me ask Mac the question, what is content and what is required to be maintained by the company? So let's dive in. This is on Kotaku.com, written by Lewis Parker. Here is what Lewis writes. And I'm just going to read the title. Over 1,000 Mario Maker levels have been deleted, and it may be just one person's fault. Full disclosure, I sent this to Mac before the episode because this is a dope topic. As originally reported by Automaton, Nintendo has begun wiping hundreds of Super Mario Maker 2 levels from its Nintendo Switch servers over the past few days. As said, levels reportedly contained, quote, advertising content, unquote. At the time Automaton's article was published, the number of deletions was around 300. Now, as of this writing, the community seems to think that the number is closer to 1,000. There's a strange wrinkle to the story, however. Over the past 24 hours, the Mario Maker community thinks it's found the culprit of the sudden removals, a well-known cheater by the name of MT94. But to explain the community's reasoning, I first have to explain how Nintendo justified the removals. This is such a long article, but I gotta summarize it. And Mac, maybe I'll read some of it. As a Kaizo ROM hack designer and Super Mario content creator, Pangia Panga shows in their video of the deletion spree, and as several members of the community have already theorized, it appears that Nintendo is removing levels that feature hashtags and some variation of the name Team Shell. Team Shell is a well-known Super Mario Maker Discord server in which members can share codes for their own custom levels. My research suggests that members of the server tag their levels with hashtags such as TS or Team Shell if they were custom built for the Discord server. Mac, I feel like people are getting the gist of where this is going.
Yeah.
Bottom line, copyright violation, advertising, let's just call it advertising. That is the reason that Nintendo is removing these levels, but ultimately it was brought to their attention by someone who is a cheater in the community. I want to hear your thoughts generally, and then obviously how this would relate to Stop Playing Games. Should Nintendo be allowed to keep these levels up? Is that part of the game, or is community content a totally separate thing?
Great questions. Fantastic segue. Interesting story, nice guy. It's so rough because I think it's fair to say that there is almost no world in which Nintendo is required, either legally or even, dare I say it, morally, to keep hosting user-created content. As much as I think it is a cool thing to do, at the end of the day, I don't think I even take the maximalist position that they should hold on to that. Although I wish they would. Okay. The thing that is very interesting to me about this whole thing is we learned, just like you summarized, we learned that there's probably one dude who's been ostracized a bit from the community for having done a lot of cheating, and who is using the fact that people from that Discord include in the notes section of their various Mario Maker 2 levels a hashtag. I presume that there's some connection of this Discord community having shunned him. Just assuming. That him using that as a pretext to claim that this is advertising. And that winds up being what gets all these things booted.
And Nintendo is the one who booted it,
yeah.
right?
And then there's the added wrinkle of, the article mentions something about some of these people are reporting that their Nintendo accounts are being suspended as well.
Yes.
Because, you think about it, if you're in a Discord that's all about Mario making, you've probably Mario made more than one. You've probably Mario made at least two. And so there's a thing where it's like, oh, that counts as the multi-strikes, right? But I think it does also lead us to some questions about, like, what's the process that's going through before these things are removed? I mean, just from the outside, I'm not privy to any of these conversations or anything, but it seems like some dude says these are advertising and then they're just getting pulled real quick. It makes me wonder if there is any actual review over something before a complaint and something pulls down. And to some extent, I mean, maybe Nintendo is worried about the children, Mr. Nice Guy. So worried about the kids that advertising, we can't have that in there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Definitely what it is. I am very saddened about it. I wish that there's a way for it to be sort of backed up. And maybe there is a way for it to be backed up so that the stuff doesn't go away forever. I know right there near the end of the article, they said something about how Nintendo doesn't allow you to re-upload a level or even something that's been slightly edited. You got to have sort of like a whole new thing from scratch if you want to try and put something up. And that seems like quite unfortunate for what those people tried to put together.
So I have some really, really deep thoughts on this. It's interesting, and I mean, this is not the first time in the world that something like this has happened, where someone has said, "Hey, I'm angry, so I'm gonna point something out to ruin everyone else's fun." Right? We see this all the time.
Remember, didn't we used to call them griefers back in the day?
Yeah, trolls, griefers. But the bigger question for me, and what I'd like to discuss for just a couple minutes, is what makes up a game? Because if Nintendo doesn't have an obligation to put up the content in a game that is largely based on user-generated content, then where does Stop Killing Games mission stop?
You know, Lom, I'm actually, in one sentence, I think you've completely flipped me, particularly on this subject, because the whole point of Mario Maker, the whole game, is the user-generated.
Yep.
In my head, I don't know why, but I was thinking just in terms of like, oh yeah, people making their own custom levels or custom maps for a game that's already been made, but you're absolutely right, dude. What is Mario Maker if it isn't the community? Now I don't own a Switch, so like I've not played. Are there any pre-baked levels for something like Mario Maker 2?
There are, but in my opinion, they're effectively a tutorial to learn how to play the game, to learn how to build, and to get coins and things like this. So it's not quite the same as being able to go online and play the user-generated stuff. And Mac, if that applies to Super Mario Maker 2, then I'm of the opinion that it also applies to Roblox. I'm of the opinion that it also applies to, I mean, you could go so far as saying, what's that game? Orange Box, the multiplayer game.
Oh, Team Fortress?
Team Fortress, right? Lots of mods in Team Fortress. It applies to a game like Dreams on the PlayStation, where your whole goal is to build stuff. And so if those servers go down, or if user content is deleted by the company who supports the game, then are they not under obligation to keep it up under Ross Scott's mission? And I'm a fan of his mission, but I just have always felt it's too ambiguous, and it's situations like this that back up my theory. It's tough, man. It's tough, Mac. What else do you think about this?
I think, Nice Guy, somehow you have shifted me farther and farther into you've shifted me into being a revolutionary here, and I thank you for it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question. What is the game? Is not this? If not this, why not this? Why not that? I think the general idea of that that there should be a way for you to, at the very least, self-host if the game company is not going to host, should be the minimum, particularly because, and I think any game that makes so much of its gameplay loop, of its gameplay appeal, the DLC, the mod, the community aspect, there needs to be some kind of way for maybe not Valve, maybe not Nintendo, but somebody who cares to actually maintain the content.
Sure.
And I think that's the balancing point. I think that's the spot in the middle where we can meet, is that if not you, then at least us.
It's tough, man, because I mean, you think about Dota 2, originally a mod. I think about Black Ops 3 on PC.
Originally a mod.
Well, no, not originally a mod. But
I know. Sorry.
You're good. But like a big part of the community is the zombie mod. The creator tools, and people have created custom zombie maps and still play it to this day for that reason. So, you know, at some point we need a stronger definition of what is a game and what is obligated of the company to. And also, this sucks. Like, let's just say this Super Mario Maker thing, it absolutely sucks.
Absolutely. We've lost the thread. This is some booty right here, as we would say. But this is absolutely terrible. Objectively terrible. People who are having accounts suspended just because somebody wants to ruin it for a bunch of people who caught him cheating. Yeah, that's some Billy Mitchell level nonsense.
Well, hey, that has been our topic of the week.
All right, well, now we turn to a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off the ground. We call this Kick or Kickstart, and I've got a little something special for y'all today. A link in the chat, which will lead you to a Kickstarter for Drownlight. That's drown like as in drowning. So, short version here. We're talking about a game, a city-building survival sim that's set on the ocean. Now, nice guy, I happen to live closer to an ocean than I ever have before in my life, so I feel a certain affinity now for lighthouses and the like. There are a lot of lovely lighthouses up and down the West Coast.
Sure.
But yeah, so the general thing is you know, it has a feel that's a little similar to something like SimCity. Oh gosh, there was a zombie city building sim that I used to play, and the name is escaping me. I should have written it down. But it's got some of these, you know, disaster simulation things in there, and there's even some items where they show where it's kind of doing a like, you know, the lightning is coming and crashing things. The environment is sort of pushing back as you expand and the like. And it is a type of genre that does, you know, really appeal to me personally. But okay, back to it a little bit more on what's going on here. So this group, I'm going to get this wrong, Crivtio Games, they've created a few different Kickstarters in the past. They're based out of the US. And this particular game, if you're interested in it, they are asking $25 for a Steam key for this game on release. They are expecting to release primarily on Steam. I think any other releases are going to be a little bit more, you know, a little bit more farther down the road and sort of if it happens, cool. If you were looking for something like Alpha Access, if that's the type of thing you're interested in, they do have a tier for that at $45. Estimated delivery for these, and they did break it down in the way where, like, the Alpha Access, they say is going to be delivered in September of this year. So, you know, we're still looking about 5 months out for that,
Sure.
Whereas something like the actual release is expected to be a year from now, in April of 2027. They were looking for $65,000 to bring this project to completion, and it looks like they've hit about $145 as of this record, with still about
they're killing it. They're killing it, bro.
15 days to go. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could say something. I know we've said some things in the past about, like, how much money does it take to make a game of this scope, that scope. I think maybe 65,000 was a little low, but 145 I think is definitely sufficient for the scope of the game that they're trying to put together. has a little bit of, story narrative beats that remind me about some of the Cthulhu-esque games on the ocean sea, like Sunken Sea and the likes that I've seen before. But I like their take on it, of constructing in this area, building your civilization around, a lighthouse in a flooded world. So, yeah. Anyway, that's just some of the broad brush strokes of what we're looking at here. Mr. Nice Guy, any thoughts? Anything strike you about this?
So here's the thing. Whenever we're reviewing something that is not in a genre that I play a lot, I'm always trying extra hard to be objective. Like, is this redeemable? Does it have redeeming qualities? Is it well put together? Do I think it's going to be successful, despite the fact that I don't like it, that it's not for me? And I think that this is one of those Kickstarters where they really have put together a good piece of work. They have a reasonable time frame. They're asking $25, which might be a little bit high, but it's not crazy. They've done a few Kickstarters before. Also, for what it's worth, they have backed 21 Kickstarters, just looking at their profile. So they're supportive of other creatives. And it looks like this is, something that could be on your Steam Deck and you could have fun in addition to being on the PC. So that opens up a whole nother community that could potentially play this game and keep it going. The only thing I don't like that really sticks out to me is I've become less and less of a fan of stretch goals when they're just very close together, and when the stretch goals are things that I feel like should just be included in the default.
Sure. Anything in that stretch goal list that you think ought to be from default?
Photo mode? I mean, photo mode is at $100,000. That's not even the lowest stretch goal. And it simply says a dedicated photo mode allowing players to capture and customize in-game screenshots, right? So, I mean, stuff like that should just be included in the game. There's no reason for silliness like that. But other than that, I think this looks great for the type of people who like it.
I will say on the subject of stretch goals, one of their stretch goals, the new city threats, introduces more monsters that actively threaten your city, increasing challenge and defense requirements. No, thank you. Sometimes I just want a little bit of relaxation. Don't get so much money that now there are even more monsters. I'm sure there'll be a way to turn them off or turn them down, I'm sure. But that just makes me antsy. Mr. Nice Guy, I like this game. I like it. It appeals to me. I wouldn't be putting it forward here if it didn't. But I have to tell you, sadly, that there's no playable demo anywhere in here.
Man.
And while I respect what they're doing, while I respect that they've put out games before successfully here on Kickstarter, I have to admit that even with that, I still have to be able to see something before I can back. And I want to. I'll probably just have to buy it when it launches because, yeah, I gotta say kick it because, I mean, if you're ready to release in 1 year, if you're ready to be in alpha in, 5-6 months, you should have a slice, like a linear slice of gameplay mechanic.
But Mac,
we can test.
They just don't want AI to slurp it up or for someone to copy it. That's why they didn't put it out.
Well, thank goodness it's not that original. But here's to hoping that it's that it is good. Obviously, I wish them the best, but I gotta say, kick it because I feel like I need to see. If you're gonna ask me money in advance, you gotta show me something. Lucas Pope, I respect you. He's never come to my house and asked me for money to fund his new thing.
Fair counterpoint.
But yeah, what about you, Mr. Nice Guy?
I say Kickstart. I say Kickstart.
Okay.
I mean, once again, this is absolutely not for me, but I think it looks like it's well put together, and I think it's the type of thing that will be successful and hit the niche that it's aimed at perfectly. So I say Kickstart.
Very fair, Mr. Nice Guy. Well, again, we wish these folks all the best. You've got Nice Guy's vote, not quite mine, but you could with a playable demo. Let this be a lesson to you. But we do wish you the best, and that's been Kick or Kickstart.
Nice. Now it is time for a segment we like to call Nerd Flex. Woo-hoo. a segment where you, the viewers, try to stump the host. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If you haven't been here before, this is where, if you're here live, you can put a question in the chat, multiple choice gaming related. Mac and I will use nothing but our noggins to try to answer it. Or we have a test bank with a near infinite number of randomly generated non-AI questions ready to go. So, Mac, let's start with one, because this one that popped up randomly when I hit the random button, super interesting. It's a Pokemon question.
Ooh.
Where is Spennis when we need him? Which Pokemon is the heaviest? That's the question. And I think I know, but which Pokemon is the heaviest?
I mean, I think it depends on when we're talking.
Agreed.
If we're talking red, blue, I think it's either Snorlax or Onix.
Snorlax was my guess, or a rock-based Pokemon would have been second.
Yeah, I would have guessed Onix primarily for its depiction as being just enormous boulders on boulders on boulders. But then, you know, in later games, you start getting really, really big Pokemon, some that are like, you know, giant legendary birds that have to be bigger than that Snorlax that is just the size of 3 angry bears or what have you. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna go Snorlax.
Actually, I'll go Onix because but I think Snorlax is the correct answer.
All right, final answer's locked in. Okay, we were both wrong.
Okay.
And it's a Pokemon called Groudon. I've never heard of that Pokemon. Groudon. 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 Apparently, the heaviest Pokemon.
He's number 383 according to the interwebs. So I guess that makes him like Gen 3. Like
Yeah, apparently.
Oh well.
Well, that's all right. We're 0 for 1. Groudon. We learned something new. Heaviest Pokemon. Question number 2, Mac, if you don't mind doing the honors.
I don't mind doing the honors at all. Galvatron asks, which city is the location where the Mortal Kombat games are developed? Is this Chicago, LA, Seattle, New York, Dallas, Miami, New Orleans, Minneapolis, Houston, Orlando, or Austin?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
And he named every major city
Mm-hmm.
in the world, or in the U.S. rather. So it's interesting because in terms of where a lot of game studios are, I think L.A. immediately. I think somewhere in California. I lean towards L.A.
Yeah, I kind of lean toward LA as well.
Yeah, let's go L.A. Final answer.
Let's see, Galvatron, let us know. Chicago. NetherRealm Studios is located there. They have even made stages based on the city. That's really cool.
I gotta brush up on my Mortal Kombat. I haven't played it in a long time.
Yeah, we should have gone to visit NetherRealm Studios. I'm sure they would have let us in if we just went up and knocked.
Yeah, just said we want to do an interview. E3 days. Well, Mac, last question. This is another random one, and guess what? It's a special round. It is a special round. And
Let's
I like
try
this
and do
one.
as many as we can.
Let's do as many as we can. Name 3 stars of video game movies.
Okay.
Name 3 stars of video game movies. Now, I assume it wants the name of the actor or actress.
I think so, yeah. I think that's where we're going. The first one that comes to mind, Mila Jovovich from the Resident Evil franchise.
Okay. You're going to hate this one, maybe, but I'm going to go with Chris Pratt from Super
How
Mario.
dare you? He's no star.
He
No,
is.
it's all good.
Star-Lord? Star-Lord? Parks and Rec?
Charlie Day. If we're going to pick somebody from the Mario movies, Charlie Day is the man to choose. Not Chris Pratt.
Well, okay,
all right,
fine.
you got it? Any more?
Yeah, I got Angelina Jolie from Tomb Raider.
Absolute classic. Christian Slater, who was in Alone in the Dark, that video game movie, one of the Yule Bowl ones, one of the bad ones.
Yeah, that's fair. And then I'm gonna go Jake Gyllenhaal, Prince of Persia.
Ooh, solid. Let's see. Ooh. Tom Holland from the Uncharted series. Yeah.
Dude, that's a really, really good one. Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other video game movies because there's some that are like, that's a video game based on a movie, right? Like Batman. I wouldn't go with, or like naming the Avengers because there's an Avengers movie. So I'm trying to think of, or an Avengers game rather.
Well,
I'm trying to think of other
there's
movies.
that ridiculous Battleship movie, right? I think that's got Liam Neeson in it, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Was Was The Rock in World of Warcraft?
That I don't know. I never saw the World of Warcraft movie. But, and I'm not going to steal, Galvatron threw one out in the chat, and I appreciate it. But it does have me thinking about Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo from the earlier Mario Brothers movie, from the 1993 one.
Well, I think when he said Jaleel White, I think he was thinking of Sonic the Hedgehog. That was actually a show. But it made me think about
the movie.
Jim Carrey. Yeah, Dr. Robotnik.
We got Jim Carrey. We got Marsden as the friendly thing, and then of course we've got Ben Schwartz, who voiced Sonic.
He voiced Sonic, yeah.
And then
job.
Idris Elba, who voiced Knuckles in
many famous
the
voices.
sequels. Okay, so we've definitely done more than 3, but that's great.
Yeah, wasn't Tom Hardy in some video game movie too? I think he was going to be in Splinter Cell, but I don't think it ever came.
Oh man, can you imagine Tom Hardy as Sam Fisher?
Dude, all of the ones we named are here.
Nice.
Angelina Jolie, Mila Jovovich, Christian Slater, Chris Pratt, Jack Black, and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Black. What a Bowser.
Well, that has been our Nerdflex.
All right, well, now we turn to a little bit of legalese.
Legalese.
I am not a lawyer, and I'm especially not a lawyer in France. We kind of teased this a little bit earlier, and Mr. Nice Guy did such a great segue of that leading into our topic. We did not compare notes beforehand, so that's just because Mr. Nice Guy is so on top of things. He knows where I'm going. He knows. But in mid-December of 2023, Ubisoft said that they were going to shut down a racing game called The Crew, and they set that expiration date for March 31st, 2024. As Nice Guy mentioned earlier, this prompted Ross Scott to push insanely hard for developers to stop killing games, a topic we've discussed on the show many times, and as Mr. Nice Guy has said, we even were lucky enough to have Ross Scott come personally onto this show to talk with us about it. And while any summary is going to inherently lose some nuance, the real short version is, when we, as customers, buy a video game, we expect to be able to play it. And when they, as a company, sell a video game, they never promise to support it forever. But because of the very one-sided power dynamic, when a company doesn't want to sell a game anymore, especially modern games, all copies are essentially self-destructed from most computers and consoles. And that's not true of everyone, but that's true of a lot of the way that modern games have been developed. And that practice, that thing, should really stop. And so, again, there's nuances in there, but that's the broad brush strokes. And one of the earliest actions that they started doing on the Stop Killing Games, this was before there was a European Citizens Initiative, this was before there was a UK thing, and this was a tactic that most of us couldn't do because we weren't French citizens, but any gamer who bought The Crew and was French could reach out to a place called the UFC Quoi Corsair, and I don't speak French.
I was going to say, Mac, I don't think that's how that's said, but we'll allow it today.
I'm going to drop this into the chat. Your French is better than mine. How would you say it?
UFC que choisir. Choisir. It's a verb that means to choose. Choisir, to choose. The verb, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Nice Guy. That is a French consumer protection agency, and people were encouraged. So if you were a French gamer who bought The Crew, you were encouraged to reach out to them about it. And what that action amounted to was essentially you filled out like a comment card to the agency explaining that you had this game, it had been destroyed by Ubisoft, and you didn't think that was right. And it has taken a couple of years, but that agency has finally filed a lawsuit against Ubisoft, or at least they announced that the lawsuit was being filed. I would love to have gotten my hands on a copy of that. It would be in French, of course, and then I would have to translate it because I don't want the huge the national embarrassment that just happened that Mr. Nice Guy saved us from. Thank you. to happen again on any of the things. But if I do get my hands on a copy of the lawsuit, I promise to have a go through it. But in broad brushstrokes, it really does kind of lay out that sort of summary. Is that, being able to stop the game from working at all is really a type of power dynamic that, shouldn't be the case, and we should really change the laws around that to try and make it a more even thing. And while there is nuance, that's just the big idea. More on that sometime in the future, I sincerely hope. But Mr. Nice Guy, that's the movement. That's what I've got for us for Legalese today.
I like it a lot. Thanks for sharing.
Of course. Thanks for segueing.
And on that note, that's our show. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Before we go, we have one last segment called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that, the cool, nerdy stuff we've been into across all platforms. Whether it's reading books, whether it's video games, board games, fantasy games, made-up games, movies, DVDs, Blu-rays. Mac, my kids don't even use Blu-rays anymore or DVDs. It's a streaming age. Whether it's movie theaters, whatever it is, we want to hear about it because we're looking for more nerdy stuff. Mac, what have you been into over the past couple weeks?
Well, as for playing, Mr. Nice Guy, I've been putting a lot of time into the Resident Evil 3 remake.
Okay.
I picked it up on the Steam sale, and I've been trying to get through it in Inferno mode, which is really hard.
Isn't it still on sale?
It could still be on sale. I haven't checked.
I think Capcom is doing a sale right now. So, but check it out, people.
Yeah, it is a short game. Objectively, it's quite a short game. And I think people who've played Resident Evil 3, the original, might be a little bit disappointed by how short it is in comparison. I think there are whole sections that didn't quite make it into the game.
Can I ask how much you paid for it?
I think I paid a few bucks, maybe $4 bucks.
Yeah, it's like $3.99 right now. I may have to pick this up.
Yeah. And if you do, and you want to have kind of a more relaxing playthrough, I think for an extra $1 or so, you can basically pay to have all the, equipment unlocked for you.
Dude, it has multiplayer?
It kind of does. It has this sort of multiplayer mode that nobody seems to like. I haven't tried it out for that reason.
Okay.
But, the reviews on that multiplayer mode are not good.
Okay.
But that's what I've been playing. As for watching Mr. Nice Guy, I took a risk because a friend of mine locally said that I should try out a Chinese television drama called Sword Snow Stride.
Okay.
And it's like this sort of historical thing. It's subtitled, so, you got to be locked in. And it's set in, a specific old dynasty of China. It's actually quite fun. It's very different in the way it's tonally. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't have expected it to do, how it shifts in tone. Sometimes it's making big jokes, other times it's being very serious. And it definitely doesn't use the same sort of shorthand. We've got a lot of cinematography shorthand that we've developed in US films that it just doesn't kind of have. But it's 38 episodes in a season, and it's been pretty fun so far.
Awesome.
And then the other thing is I went to the movie theater and I watched Project Hail Mary and had a great time of it, Mr. Nice Guy. Loved it. I know it's early yet, but I would certainly give that movie of the year.
Nice. Well, let's see. That's a great segue, because while I was in Seattle, this is why I was saying in the beginning, light is good.
Yeah.
Right? Because the premise of Project Hail Mary is
the
sun.
Nice.
Right?
What a callback.
Yeah. So I did go see Project Hail Mary with my wife, and yeah, it was a fantastic, fantastic movie. And I don't really want to say much because people who haven't seen it, you should go see it. G in the chat, I think you would actually like this movie a lot. It's based on a book. I haven't read the book yet, but I've been listening to the audiobook, and it's great. Both are great. See the movie.
Yeah.
And then I did go see Super Mario Galaxy as well in theaters with the family, and that was good. It was all right. It was okay.
It was good. It was all right. It was
all
okay.
Right. It was
just
okay.
The evolution on that.
The evolution of me just being honest and saying it was a mediocre movie, right?
Yeah.
As far as playing Slay the Spire, I picked that up in the Steam sale. Really, really enjoying that.
You mean Slay the Spire 2?
No, first one. I picked up the first one.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and I got, I'm baller on a budget, right? So I got it.
Yeah.
I already owned Balatro. So there was like if you already own Balatro, then you can get this for a deal. And it's also already on sale. So I
nice.
got it for very cheap. And then, Mac, I've been doing the board game thing a little bit. Speaking of which, there's a Slay the Spire Kickstarter right now for those who didn't know. You should check that out if that's your thing. But my brother had given me, years and years ago, a copy of a game called Boss Monster, which is a phenomenal card game. Have you played it, Mac?
I have played it. I've played it with my nephews, and I think I almost played it when I came to visit your house, but I think we, ran out of time.
Yeah.
And the kids were like, we'll do it next time. And I'm like, you got it, kids.
I love it. Well, I've really been enjoying the game. It's not too complicated, but it's complicated enough that you can kind of have to strategize. And so I was in Seattle. I was like, you know what? I should pick up Super Boss Monster. I'll get it on Amazon. And my brother, my dear, dear brother, Nemo G, we call him, picked it up for me. He got me a copy of Super Boss Monster. And it's all blurry right now as I'm holding it up.
Yeah, but I can see it's got that Super Nintendo aesthetic cartridge thing.
Yeah,
going.
it has that super... I wonder if this is like Twitch somehow censoring it. This is so crazy how blurry it is. But anyway, it's very, very cool, and it has a solo mode.
Ooh.
So you can play with people. You can also play it solo. And so I've played it with people, and I've played it solo, and it's fantastic. And that's it. So, well, Mac, why don't you take us home, sir?
All right. Thank you so much for coming out to the show, everybody, whether that's here as we're doing it or listening after the fact. We appreciate it. And remember, you're always welcome. Twitch.tv/2nerdsinapod. That's with the number 2. And you can catch us live, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central for the live recording. Throw out your nerdy trivia, try and stump us, and share with us your cool, nerdy gaming and watching suggestions. But until we see you next time, remember to be excellent to each other and keep it nerdy.
See ya. Be kind.
Bye.